in your eyes, drowning in blue, out of control. What do I do? I'm addicted to you. Today's song brings us the topic of love addiction. Right? I don't want to call it schmish addiction. One, YouTube guidelines, and two, even though it is the correct terminology, the people that are actually certified in diagnosis and treatment of this addiction likes to call it smash and love addiction just because it seems that the lead up to it is what's more addictive, not the actual smash itself. So today we are going to talk about this and also touch on a little bit as well of birth control. But to begin with, we need to understand how love can be an addiction in the first place. So we have our frontal lobe, our midbrain, and our, I'm going to butcher this, our hypothalamus. Um, but essentially, these parts of your brain is what releases your oxytocin, your serotonin, your natural opioids. Yes, we make them, and and just adrenaline as well. Now, we are supposed to have these things release naturally as an important aspect of our biology. This is what helps us understand being attracted to a mate, as well as loving our children. And even it's very important, especially with oxytocin, when it comes to uh, breastfeeding as well. So, what we have here, right, just like a drug, hits these parts of our brains and then gives us a nice knockout release. With withdrawals, once it wears off, love is the same way. This is why you experience a heartbreak and why, even yes, especially people who are elderly and have loved all their life this one person and lose them, you can die of a heartbreak, just like you can die from withdrawals. It's very, very rare, but it does happen, and more so happens with people that already have issues within cardiology, their age, and other underlying factors. But it does occur, and it would happen, right, if they weren't heartbroken or if they weren't addicted to a substance in the first place. So, love, in a way, is like a drug because it is, in a way. It releases all these natural chemicals in our brains, giving us a huge rush along with adrenaline. And specifically, what people tend to get addicted to is the build up to it, whether it be the foreplay or in a more romantic relationship, the dating, going out, spending time with each other, all the lovey dovey type stuff. People get very addicted to it. In fact, in my research, what I actually found with most addicts in this area, they specifically like to describe it as being addicted to falling in love. And I think that's such a like eerily beautiful thing, like the way to phrase it is so eerie in a sense of being so addicted to something that it's debilitating, but also it's kind of altering your mind into what love is when it's not, because usually it's a fantasy idea as well. You're chasing something that isn't always real. Most of the people with these types of addiction actually tend to have this perception of love based on false ideologies, usually fantasizing over what a partner should be like based off of movies. And yes, Disney plays a huge part in that. I can even say with myself, growing up, I didn't have the best look of what relationships should look like. I looked at my parents. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old. My mom remarried, but she waited very long to get married with who she was with, and their relationship, I would say, definitely a lot better, but still not exactly what I would want in a marriage, right? Not knocking my stepdad, love my stepdad, just their relationship is not what I want for myself, and they have divorced as well. So I think that shows that they weren't happy with how their relationship was either. So I had this kind of lost sense of what a relationship should look like, and within my own self as well. And it's interesting to see how this was the ground and base work for everyone else that has this addiction, which I say I don't. Very okay with being single. But I do struggle with certain expectations when it comes to partners when I decide to get one. Now, one of the other things that I thought was very interesting here was the effect specifically that birth control actually has in all of this. Now, even though they say you see more men having this type of addiction, it isn't just men, it is women as well. And one way that I have noticed within this topic, not just even with addiction, but how love can be altered and perceived differently is through birth control, specifically birth control that will raise or lower your estrogen. So the importance here, right, when it comes to hormones that we have noticed when it comes to picking a match is the higher the hormone, the more you're looking for somebody else who has a higher hormone. So with a higher estrogen, you are looking for men with higher testosterone. Well, how do we know this? Well, our hormones affect how our face looks, and there are certain markers we have within our face that are estrogen and testosterone based. So, a person who has higher levels of estrogen is going to be more attracted to people with higher levels of testosterone, if that is their sexuality disclaimer. I don't know all of, I slightly dip my toe in research. It does seem like when it comes to fluid sexuality, it seems to match even with the same. So higher levels of estrogen is typically more attracted to higher levels of estrogen, but the research on that is not really great. So don't want to talk too much on that one. That still needs to be more researched on. But when it comes to straight relationships that we see, right, the higher levels of estrogen is going to be attracted to those higher levels of testosterone, and the testosterone markers in our face and the estrogen markers in our face is what signals that. And it's the same for higher levels of testosterone, looking for higher levels of estrogen, which I thought was very interesting. Now, when birth control, birth control, a lot of what most hormonal birth control does is that actually lowers your estrogen. So when you start taking birth control, you may see over time the way you look at men changes, specifically on your attraction. The lower your estrogen levels, the more you're going to seek partners with lower testosterone markers within their faces. So this was kind of mind-boggling to me. And when I first actually started doing my research, I went through YouTube first, so I was waiting for my phone to charge. And I actually came across a different argument that is completely not true, and it makes perfect sense. Mama Dr. Mama Dr. Jones, she uploaded a video debunking a bunch of myths. She is a licensed, board certified OBGYN, and I love her content, and I definitely look for her content. I wanted to see if she had touched on this, and she touched on this, but only in the myth aspect of the pheromones rumor. So there has been this rumor going around that when you take birth control, this changes your pheromones, and because it changes your pheromones, you're going to choose different men. Not necessarily, because pheromones is what's attracted to you, not what you are attracted to. So it's like I imagine that whoever first started spreading this saw the research on estrogen and testosterone and got confused. But that's the only way I can logically rationalize that. It could have just been somebody pulling stuff out of their butt. I don't know. But it was interesting to see this claim. I'm glad that this was the only place in my research that I did see this claim, even to begin with. I'm very happy that I do use a medical journal called NCBI PMC, which is a free worldwide medical journal. I can't upload on there unless you are licensed to. conduct studies and pass their qualifications, more than likely you cannot upload studies either. Very, very good studies on there. And that's where I gathered my information and even saw the graphs that correlate from those levels of estrogen mirroring those levels of testosterone. It's not 100%, of course, but it is very interesting to see. And it does make sense on a biological level throughout evolution. You know, if certain traits are desirable and need to be passed down on, and if you have made it this long in life, then that signals that our genes are good enough to be passed down on. So we're going to look for partners on a subconscious level that either mirror or complement our own genetics. So, very interesting to me. And with my own um, history of birth control, I can definitely tell a difference from when I was on hormonal birth control versus when I was on non hormonal birth control, and how it did affect how I looked at men um, in their faces. And it didn't dawn on me at the time. I didn't notice it. And I was like, I feel like my type might be changing. I don't really know. Things are looking a little different. And then getting back off birth control, not taking any birth control at all currently. It's definitely gone back to how it was before. So it is interesting to even see within myself. And I'm very interested for any of my followers that have been on birth control, what your experience was if you were on hormonal birth control, and if you noticed a difference yourself in the type of partners that you pick. And especially the face is seemingly like the biggest factor there, and what most studies show and like to use, which is the face. I'd like to see more studies on this, especially when it comes to as well as body types. And I also want to see if there's any type of social studies to go on as well. Because social and cultural ideologies of masculinity and femininity changes over time. And I wonder as well, is this somehow makes another impact or not? I'm very curious on this topic. Honestly, this is definitely a topic that I want to do even more research on and want to revisit at another time. But with all the information I did discover, all of this was very new to me. And I love the fact that I got to learn something new, do some research. I feel pretty happy with my research and my understanding of these hormones and why they affect the way they do, as well as learning about smash addiction, aka love addiction. I definitely realized that I even still held on to a little bit of stigma when it comes to this form of addiction due to my lack of understanding of it. So I'm very happy that I took this topic and challenged this topic and looked at it from a different angle and get a better understanding of it. You know, we definitely truly do fear or hate what we don't understand. And the best way to overcome it is to do our research and start getting that understanding of it. So I'm very happy that I did this research. I listened to a lot of people's stories on YouTube as well when it comes to their personal journey of love addiction. And it seems like it really is the same story almost over and over, with this idea of falling in love. And it makes sense when you think about it, listening to even the song I chose today. So many love songs compare love as a drug, and there is science behind it. It's not just some random comparison, it's not just a metaphor, it's science. So I really love that I did dive into this, and I can't wait for the topics that I have coming up, and I hope you guys enjoy my future topics. I definitely decided to make this video a little bit shorter. um, I know I did a really, really long video in my last video, so I wanted to make up for that by making a little bit more of a shorter video. But I am a person that wants to take on longer based content. I don't want to make a lot of short content. That's not something I'm really interested in doing. I love to talk. So, short term topic, short term, short term short, you know what I mean. Short form content is, I feel like I get too overwhelmed with, because either people are not going to pay much attention because I want to fit too much information in a short amount of time, or it's going to be a crap ton of short forms content, and it's going to come off as more annoying, at least annoying for me, definitely, in order to make it. But I feel like having to look for video after video after video after video after I don't like to doom scroll. I definitely caught myself in that doom scroll phase, but I would like to stay out of it and just make sure I watch content that is a bit longer, is about topics I'm actually interested on, because I'm more likely to watch a longer video over a topic I'm interested in than what I'm not interested in. So if you think my content is way too long for you, um, I'm sorry I don't have the intention to making my content really short. So I would suggest finding a YouTuber that hits the same topics as I do, that makes much more shorter content, and giving them your support instead. But if you enjoy the long topics, and if you enjoy the specific topics that I like to cover, or if you have your own suggestions as well, make sure to let me know. I definitely enjoy the positivity with all of that. I will say I've hit a certain demographic with my last video, that I did not quite enjoy. YouTube actually flagged quite a few of my comments in the last video I've made, which is why I made my pinned comment stating y'all are giving me whiplash. So that's to explain why that's there. Very, very interesting. Some very just inappropriate comments. Some comments flagged. I don't know why I got flagged. They're definitely not like the best comments, but I was a little surprised to see certain comments flagged. I don't know. But let me know what you guys want to see for a topic of the future, and if y'all suggest a topic that is already on my list, that will be the one I do first, because I'm debating on which one exactly I want to do, but I have like 8 different topics already planned. So, y'all are bound to suggest something I'm already going to do. This suggestion, specifically the topic of the birth control, was suggested by a commenter of mine. I was already going to talk about love addiction to begin with, and quite quote this exact song actually. So it was very cool to be able to take that birth control topic and sneak it into a topic that I was already going to talk about. So that was fun and awesome. And I was able to learn something new, and I really appreciate that. I love, love, love being able to research. I love to do my research. I love looking at studies. I love to understand why things are the way that they are. I love to read, and I've definitely leaned towards now reading just a bunch of studies, doing the kind of, I guess, nonfiction escalated, which is very parallel to how I was as a very young child. I was very big into specifically reading about animals, and I caught myself recently watching a lot of zoology based YouTube videos. So if you guys also know any of cool zoologists that make YouTube videos, please let me know, because I would like to learn more. There's this one chick that I watch right now. I keep forgetting her name, but she is so funny. I absolutely love her. She's basically going on different eras throughout history and building up to it. I've been loving learning about all of evolutionary history with animals. I think that's really cool. So, if you have any topics for suggestion for me to cover, let me know. And if you guys have any suggestions for zoologists I can watch on here, let me know as well, because that's what I really want to do in my free time, is watch about animals, because that's what I like, is animals. So thank you guys for watching.